I seem to remember the little battles I've had when I've just simply seen a lot of people just offhandedly waving extreme bullying. I've tried to explain my own personal situation in a small town community where I literally had no resources but the adults and they didn't care. I've tried to explain the hole I had to climb out of because of the psychological, the physical, and the emotional pain I had to endure. And the fact that for all this talk of, oh, just you should have just fought back. And I tried to explain, this wasn't one bully I had to deal with. This was a gang of bullies. Two problems happened. If I fought them, even if I won, I didn't get their respect. They were sore losers. They just find ways to come at me and come at me harder. Two, every time I fought back, I got in trouble. Even to the adults who said, you need to fight back, you need to fight your own battles, which isn't 100% bullcrap. Even they would turn away and basically I'm in trouble for doing exactly what I was told to do. Not to mention the fact that it didn't make my situation better in my case. It made it worse. I literally had to move away from that community for my life to turn around, for me to have the breathing room I needed to take care of myself and to actually get a good education, because by this time I was either making myself sick or becoming sick because I couldn't handle the daily barrage of the bullying. I couldn't handle a system that says fight back, but if you fight back, you're in trouble. I couldn't handle the fact that nobody wanted to step in to help me, and I was the favorite punching bag of the community. And the fact that the police, after a while, they stopped caring. Nobody cared. I couldn't fight back. Nobody cared. I was alone. And even some of my friends would betray me to be in with the in crowd. It was literally that bad. But mine's a more extreme case, and I don't try to apply it to certain situations where fighting back does help, where it does actually get the bully away from the person when they have one, maybe two bullies. I'm not going to stand here and say that it's never a good idea to fight back. It's just sometimes you try to tell somebody, oh, you're just a crybaby. You should fight back. In a situation where you don't realize that they have no option to do that. Where it doesn't matter how much they fight back. They get in trouble or the bullies gang up on them more and they have nothing to do. They are absolutely at the mercy of these bullies and the community doesn't care. But here's a study that tries to talk about everything. Bullying can take toll beyond childhood. And I know because it's taken me a lot of years to figure out just how much damage was done by the bullying and what to do with it. And once again, I want to state that yes, sometimes introspection doesn't work. Some people really suck at it. That doesn't mean that introspection is bullcrap. If it wasn't for introspection, I wouldn't have met the woman who is the love of my life, who is a great mother to my child, and who is somebody who I deserve, who loves me for everything that I am, who's everything I could have ever wanted in life. And I wouldn't have picked her if I hadn't done work on myself. So if you want to give me this cock and bull story that psychology never works and introspection is stupid, you can eat me, okay? Some people, it doesn't work. You're right. If they're their own echo chamber, sometimes they suck. But it's like the movie What About Bob? Sometimes you have to realize when you've made a mess of your situation and you have to pick up the pieces. Hell, one of the things that I find interesting with AA, especially in adolescence, because I had a friend who was, well, she was 18, but she knew she was a heavy drinker and she didn't want to be anymore. She had a messy room. What was the first thing that AA told her to do? They told her that she had to legitimately clean her room. You might think it's such a small thing, it's so stupid. It's not. Because your room, in many ways, becomes like a representation of self. You made the mess. You strewn the clothes where you strewn them. You strewn the toys or the games or the movies where you did, instead of making them neat and orderly and organized. And in a way, it's an exercise. You figure out how to actually clean your room as well as clean out stuff that you think you needed but you didn't really need. It's like cleaning out the clutter of your mind, the clutter of self. And with a clean room, you have a clean thinking space with which to realize all the ways in which your room is your life. And you have, in many ways, made a complete and utter cluttered mess of your life. And it's up to you to fix you. I don't think anybody would disagree that introspection, when it comes to some degree with things like drug addiction and alcoholism, is bullcrap. Because an outside force, while maybe knocking the drink out of your hand, isn't going to stop you from drinking. And if there's a reason, like post-traumatic stress disorder or many different reasons why people drink, if you don't address that, you're never going to stop drinking. You have to fix self. So don't give me this cock and bull story that introspection never works, that it's a load of bullcrap, because I'm telling you that that is a load of bullcrap. But I digress. I'm getting off on a tangent here, and I apologize for that. Bullied kids are at greater risk of a range of psychological problems later in life, a study suggests. Psychological damage doesn't just go away because the person grew up and is no longer bullied, says a researcher. And that applies to both sexes. The study finds challenging earlier research that suggested that long-term toll was more pronounced among girls. The study refers to, quote, a much richer data set, researchers say. We were actually able to say being a victim of bullying is having an effect a decade later. Children in North Carolina joined a study at age 9, 11, or 13. Researchers collected data by interviewing the kids and their parents. Following 1,270, remember, anything above 100 is a significant sample and is data that is at least a lot more reliable than anything below 100. And we're talking about over 1,000 of them into adulthood. The Globe and Mail reports victims had, quote, higher levels of depressive disorders, anxiety disorders, generalized anxiety, panic disorders, and agoraphobia. I've had almost all of those. I've gotten over them because, oh gee, introspection. I digress. The study says they suffered 4.3 times the anxiety disorder risk of children with no bullying in their past, the New York Times reports. Bullies themselves face a higher risk of antisocial personality disorders, while male victims and bullies faced 18.5 times the risk for suicidal thoughts. Still think this is something that's just a joke, that these guys and girls who claim that they're near suicide because of bullying are just limp-wristed wimps who just can't handle the real world? Well, who do you think destroyed their ability to be prepared for the real world? I'm not into this whole survival of the fittest bull crap, okay? We're not in caves. We're not in the forest anymore, where something like that might apply. Just because somebody has been bullied to the point to where their self-esteem is shattered, their emotional state is broken. Because basically, you're just basically saying that you support antisocial disorders, personality disorders, that you support when people are so out of control that just slapping them on the wrist and giving them detention is never going to deter them from attacking people. I know people like that. I've been the victim of people like that. And I guess in a great lot of the stuff that I developed in California when I was away from that small town community that I was originally from stemmed from the aftermath of being away from being bullied. Sure, I wasn't liked a whole lot in high school, and part of that was my own fault. I'm not faulting the people around me, but they didn't bully me. We could be teenagers, or we could be more sophisticated adolescents about our existence. And people treated me generally like a person. I wasn't treated like I was a freak, and I certainly wasn't beaten up. I wasn't psychologically scarred and left for dead. If we hadn't moved out of that community, I don't like to think of the consequences of what would have come. I would have either killed myself, or I would have tried to kill as many people in my immediate area as possible, because the adults didn't care. Most of the kids didn't care. If anything, they enjoyed that it wasn't them but me who was the magnet for all of the bullies. And no matter what I tried, I couldn't get them to stop. I could not get them to respect me. Nobody was ever going to respect me, no matter how hard I tried to earn it. I had no options. I had no outlets. And I was a ticking time bomb if I had stayed there. I'm thankful I'm away from it. I'm thankful that I was able to get myself together and do the work I needed to do in therapy and many other places and get myself onto a better footing, especially for my son's sake. He needs a dad, not an emotionally wrecked man-child. And that's what I've been trying to give him since birth, is an adult father.